West Side had a long life. Built in 1922, a local baker lived here first. But in late January, a demolition crew moved in. Building a new home like the one next door and selling it could net the next owner a fast $1 million profit.
This is never coming back. It makes me very sad.
Local author Caroline Adderson calls such old houses bulldozer bait.
We're tearing down livable houses, many cases totally renovated, updated, beautiful homes, raising the lot entirely, carting it all off to the landfill and replacing it with a much larger synthetic house that nobody can afford.
Addison is the city's best-known preservationist. Her Facebook page, where she photographs older homes before they're demolished, has more than 12,000 supporters.
For me, I see these houses as repositories of narrative. They're not only these incredibly enduring, hand-built, all-natural structures, but they're housing the stories of all the people who lived in them.
Perhaps, but these days, the math for keeping such homes doesn't add up. A buyer who can afford this property's $4 million price tag can probably also afford to spend another $1 million to build a new home.
If the onus is on us to put up some regulations that would protect the built heritage for other generations to enjoy.
Vancouver has come up with a sweeping proposal to save its character houses, which would represent a remarkable victory for the preservationists. But in the process, it's also touched off a visceral debate about the future of housing in this city and exactly who are we saving these houses for.
We have kind of poked a hornet's nest in some ways.
Gil Kelly is the city's chief planner.
It's excavated a much larger issue about Vancouver's livability and affordability than perhaps was thought about when this was first initiated.
Hemmed in by mountains and ocean and with no room to expand, building new in Vancouver usually means tearing down what's old. And the Character Home Review would essentially freeze thousands of homes, and housing affordability is at a crisis. Even on the slightly more affordable east side of the city, detached homes are all well over $1 million. In the more upscale west side neighborhoods, they're closer to $3 million. Most condos are too small for families, and townhomes are scarce. Still, the city made saving character homes the priority. And it doesn't take all that much for a home to be considered character. It has to be built before 1940 with an old-fashioned look, a sloping roof, maybe with windows in the dormers, a front porch, original windows or window boxes, and some original detail on the exterior.
It seems like it's going to have unintended consequences, and I think the city needs to think about that.
Siobhan Jackson owns a home near Commercial Drive. It's a house she and her husband worked hard to buy and then to fix up. And she says the city's proposal will hurt people like them.
The real data on the house next door is that it reduced the value by 15%.
She says the city's proposal punishes people who own pre-1940s houses. The city would give owners bonus space and let them build a bigger laneway house if they preserve and renovate. But the penalty for knocking down an old house would mean any new home would be 30% smaller. Jackson says her neighbor's house was deemed by the city to be a character home, and its recent sale price slumped.
Didn't seem there was any room for other factors to be considered. You know, is the home even safe? Will it fall down in an earthquake? Are we actually now essentially putting people in homes that may not be safe? When we did our renovations, we had to do substantial foundation renovations.
Vancouver already has heritage regulations for specific older homes worth preserving, but the Character Home Review covers a huge area, some 15,000 homes, some nice, but many just old. It's a move that many feel could freeze development in some neighborhoods for decades to come. And freeze them out of their dream of owning their own place because so many expensive single-family homes will never be converted to anything resembling affordable housing.
We talk about housing in any context, I think.
Everyone here is a member of a pro-density group, Abundant Housing Vancouver.
My 5 kids and I live in a Yaletown condo that's about 1,000 square feet.
I live with a friend here. We're both lawyers. We live together and share a place.
I've rented in probably 10 apartments over the past 10 years in Vancouver. I've moved around a fair bit.
We sat in on one of the group's kitchen table meetings. It included lawyers, professionals, and people with good-paying jobs, none of whom say they can afford their own place.
So there's a whole lot of land in this town, but most of it is zoned for low-density single-family homes, the kind of places that systematically exclude people like me, people like all around the table who just can't afford $1 million home.
Vancouver is rightly praised for its North America leading efforts at densification, but success at packing people into the downtown obscures the fact that in most of the city, single-family homes dominate.
We would love to have these mid-density, low-rise, sort of row houses, townhouses, that sort of development. It's just illegal in most of Vancouver.
Out of roughly 7,000 building permits issued in Vancouver last year, most were for condos. Only 422 were for family-friendly townhomes or duplexes.
Cake. We're kind of in the let them eat cake world right now.
Hence the cake, and a plea to the city to loosen those restrictive rules so they won't be shut out.
Yeah, it's not that we're against character at all. If you walk around Vancouver neighborhoods, there's beautiful homes. We just also want to be able to live in those homes.
And we want the city to be vibrant. We want to stay. So I think if we can build in some density and some tasteful density, I think it'll just provide a lot of vibrancy and space for that.
And if we're saying that Vancouver can never change, we can never change any of the houses that are here right now, then that's just not going to work.
You like this neighborhood, you like this corner.
I do like this corner.
It's not just density advocates fighting the plan to preserve character homes. Strikingly, so are some of the city's top heritage experts.
It's going to shape, I think, the development of Vancouver for the next 20, 30 years.
Architect Javier Campos is the head of Heritage Vancouver.
We need to define the character more broadly. We need to define the character, how we want to live in our neighborhoods, how we can shop in our neighborhoods, how we can work in our neighborhoods, how those neighborhoods can integrate with the rest of the city.
Campos is also pushing back that this particular kind of character, an English country look, is the only kind of housing era that deserves special treatment.
We term it the Anglo-colonial bias. And it's an Anglo-colonial bias is those were good times, right? Those are part of our history, that there are good times, right? And so people, I think, go on to that.
Going through Vancouver's archives, we found examples of classic character homes that have remained outwardly unchanged for almost 100 years. But for many immigrants who arrived later, the distinct Vancouver special might be the more sentimental favorite. The spacious, boxy homes were popular with large families. Once considered ugly, many are now getting facelifts.
Everything after 1940.
Everything after 40 is just not considered valuable or worth keeping, and that's not really it. I mean, heritage is really about our history and our tradition. And so if you could only recognize your great-great-grandparents and nobody else in between, you'd be, well, I'm missing something about my family here.
This whole discussion about saving character homes probably wouldn't be happening were it not for the huge influx of wealthy new arrivals from Asia, especially China, that's fueling resentment.
There's 3 bedrooms on the second floor.
They're the ones doing most of the knocking down. We met Brian Sung on a walk around Dunbar.
And I heard that there's...
His English is better than his Chinese Korean parents, so he explained his family's thoughts on the character home they recently bought.
I do love this old house, but it's just not very good looking anymore. And now it's been 80 years.
It's an 80-year-old house?
80-year-old house. Maybe it's better if we just knock it down and make a new house. Right. That's one of the options for Asians like us.
So, with the face of traditional neighborhoods changing quickly, perhaps preserving character houses is one way to slow that change. Some will see this as a way to keep immigrants, particularly rich Chinese immigrants, out of these neighborhoods.
Yes.
Is it?
They are welcome to come. Don't tear down the house. It has nothing to do with where they're from. It has to do with the fact that they have money. And this money is creating chaos in our housing market.
Clearly there are neighborhoods where there's a stronger sense of the single-family format in a traditional format than in others, and we're just going to have to sort of break that down.
Vancouver's new chief planner, Gil Kelly, on the job for just a few months, is trying to balance the competing agendas. And he told us he's now reviewing the Character Home Review.
Again, we've got to sort of step back and recalibrate the program. The younger generation is feeling pretty much squeezed out. And so opening up new options for both affordability and different housing forms and choices for them is really critical, even as people here who may be older are wanting to hang on to what they've always known.
In the midst of an epic housing crunch, the long reign of Vancouver's character houses is being challenged from excavators and bulldozers, and also by those demanding more flexible housing options. What began as a move to preserve the past has underscored the challenges of creating an affordable future. Chris Brown, CBC News, Vancouver.